Welcome. I now will ask the Sergeant of Arms to call the meeting to order. Again.
Thank you. Yes, everybody, just a few of the standard announcements. The President has asked if you are a member of the Rotary Club of London, if you could put the letters RCL in front of your name. Please make sure you don't unmute yourself whilst anyone else is speaking. That would be helpful. Thank you very much. As I repeat, President David has said, if you could put the letters RCL in front of your name, that will identify those who are members of the Rotary Club of London, which for the benefit of our visitors. This meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be seen on the meeting, please turn off your video. We will be going into breakout groups in a little while, but only for 5 minutes, just to see how it works. It's to try and give you the impression of sitting at a table as we do at our weekly meeting, so you can just have a short chat with the people round and about and see how that works out. Hopefully it's going to work. I've set it up, but we will see. But you don't have to worry. After 5 minutes, you should come back in again. And that's all I want to say at this particular point, President David.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms Clive. So welcome again to everyone. There are still one or two visitors I'm hoping will appear. This is the first meeting for quite a while that we've been effectively let out on parole. And several of our members have already taken advantage of the parole to escape to far-flung destinations. But it's good to see some of them online from Tokyo or wherever they happen to be today. In asking you to identify, for members to identify, there's a little box in the top right-hand corner of the screen where there's 3 dots in it. And if you push on that, one of them is rename. And it's very easy to change your name as often as you like. I found that when I started this meeting, I was still calling myself VP. So I popped in and changed my status. And in doing that, it's helpful to us to actually be able to record the people who are members, but more importantly, to distinguish the visitors so that we can give them our proper attention. I would like us now to try a breakout. We're going to, Clive is going to automatically put us into groups randomly. I don't know who will be with whom, but whoever it is, we'll be there for 5 minutes. And I hope we have the opportunity of discussing, if anything, how to work Zoom. So Clive, could you organize us?
Yes, indeed.
We might try it again, but I don't want to confuse us too much. The benefit of breakouts is that you can actually be chatting to a few people as if you're around a table. And when we get back to a physical meeting, we might want to have a hybrid system whereby we can actually partly be physical and partly be online. The Chesterfield is very keen to have us back. And of course, the government wants us to spend money in the hospitality industry. So we will be considering that. But I would, if you like, announce that we will not be going back to a physical meeting until at least the 7th of September. So we're not planning to try a physical meeting before September. I'd like now to welcome my new team. This is the first meeting we've had with the new team, and particularly for the administrator, for whom it's quite a challenge to have all the mailings correct. And I would ask those members of the team to wave, the councillors and officers of the Rotary Club of London, to wave so that everybody can see, at least on one screen, And keep on waving to give people a chance to try the 3 screens for a moment, so that you know who to blame. Who to go to when you want something from the club. Thank you. A few of those individuals will be speaking later. My next task is to welcome our visitors. I'd just like to inquire whether Judge Gerard Shriffen is online yet or not. I'd also like to welcome particularly His Excellency Ellison Edroy Greenslade, QPM, who is with the Bahamas. He's the High Commissioner for the Bahamas. And just to explain the QPM, that's the Queen's Police Medal, which is quite a rare honour. So welcome, you're most welcome, Your Excellency. I'd also like to welcome Louise Cance-Price, who is the President of the Rotary Club of Putney, and David Obadan, who is the immediate past President of the Shropshire South Club of Nigeria. And I will give people an opportunity to speak a little later. But I'd just like to know what other visitors we have in attendance that we can receive and give greetings to.
Thank you, Clive. Can I bring you congratulations on your ascending to the chair as President of the Rotary Club of London, David? And I bring you the greetings of President Siva Kumar and all the fellows at the Rotary Club of Northwick Park.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sydney Parker.
Thank you. And I won't repeat what Dick said, but we both belong to the same club, and I'm sure Siva wants to bring double greetings.
Thank you. Let me just move along the screens. Anybody else?
There was Catherine from Hampstead.
Catherine?
Yes. Yes.
You wish to say anything?
Congratulations to David Johnson and his team, and I wish them a very successful year from all of us at Rotary Club Hampstead.
Thank you. If there are no more...
Yes, it's Eve. It's here.
Yes, good afternoon and congratulations to the President and his new team. I am immediate past President of Rotary Club of Harrow. I've been regular visitor to your club and I enjoyed every meeting. I thank everybody very much for that.
Thank you. Eve, I tried to unmute you. I didn't. Oh, I think I've done it. No, I haven't. Okay, we're there.
I think I was muting and you were unmuting, but obviously warm greetings to President David. I know I'm here on a weekly basis, obviously with Robert, but just to bring greetings from our new President Satish and the outgoing President Mike Bell from the Rotary Club of Redbridge. And you know, it's great to be here. I think possibly you have the High Commissioner is waiting to speak as well, His Excellency. So I won't.
I'm going to invite him to speak shortly. Yeah.
All right. Okay. But greetings and much success for the coming Rotary year.
Thank you.
Is there
anyone else waving at me? Can I say there is one way of where you see reactions. If you click on that, it brings a little hand up against your name, and I know that you are waiting to say something.
Thank you. I was going to a small change to the running order, Clive. I would now like to move on to anniversaries, but in particular the anniversary of the 10th of July 1973, sorry, which was the Independence Day for the Commonwealth of Bahamas. and we sent greetings to the High Commissioner, to His Excellency Eldroyd Ellison, sorry, and he responded in kind. The greeting we sent was: the President of the Rotary Club of London remembers your kind visit and sends greetings to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on the occasion of the 47th anniversary of independence and on the joining together of the Commonwealth of Nations on the 10th of July 1973. Furthermore, the Rotary Club of London offers congratulations for the ongoing contribution the Commonwealth of the Bahamas makes to the world. In reply, His Excellency wrote, "Thank you for writing with this kind invitation. I'm pleased to accept and will do my best to join the meeting as scheduled. Please convey my thanks to the President and members of the Rotary for the very kind independence greetings and for the club's continued support for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas." And I thought this was perhaps the position in the meeting to ask His Excellency to say a few words.
Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President David. Please allow me at the outset to congratulate you on your ascendancy to the office of President of your Rotary Club in London, and to wish you and your executive team the very best for the year ahead. It's a pleasure to join you in fellowship, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon. Please believe me when I tell you, Mayfair has been a very lonely place. My wife and I have been in this house for 3 months. I'm sure it's the experience of many of you. And we've been truly paying attention to the advisories, so we didn't venture very, very far, other than just to look out of the door from time to time. But that said, it's been very, very quiet. And if there's one thing that we miss, it's actually the friendliness, the warmth of meeting people face to face, if only at a distance, and being able to see a warm smile. The experience we've had is that even when you meet someone in person wearing a mask, you can't tell if they're smiling or frowning. You can't see anything. So we will continue to exercise all of those precautions, but to suffice it to say, people were meant to relate to each other, to fellowship, and certainly to share love and affection. And so that's the spirit in which I greet you this morning as I join your family, your Rotary family, and to say to you how proud we are that in the Bahamas just a few nights ago, we had a very good celebration virtually as we onboarded District Governor Charles Seeley for the Bahamas. District 720, I believe it is, Isabella. I see Isabella online, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong. But what a tremendously proud moment for us to be able to do that just a few nights ago. And to say that we congratulate you once again, Rotary, for the fantastic work that you do for humanity across the globe. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We have other anniversaries. I don't know who's online, but it's the members' birthdays for David Marsh on the 9th, Sir Tony Baldry on the 10th, and Wally Wallace on the 12th of July. Are any of those members present today?
Wally is with us.
Wally, could I present you on your birthday with the virtual pen of the Rotary Club of London? This pen has been given to quite a few people over the last few weeks. At one time, if we meet in the club, hopefully it will actually pass from hand to hand. At the moment, it's the image I'm presenting you with. This is your birthday pen. Thank you. I'd like to cover the subject of charity. Fine. We have completed the lockdown appeal, which was highly successful last week, and which has raised about £16,000. And we want to move on to a new appeal. Now, over the last year, the Rotary Club of London has given to children's charities alone over £36,000, and that is over £300 per member. And I think that's a good achievement. Can we do it? It doesn't match the achievement I was hearing about before the meeting started. It's not quite 750,000, but every sum helps. And I'd like to, if you like, commence a new campaign, a new fund today for helping children and the people who help children, and to raise funds for a charity into our charitable fund that we can actually donate to charities helping children in need and in suffering. So that's the new charity that I'm announcing today. I'd now like to call on some officers to give reports. And if I could start with Rajiv Subrawal, who is our foundation committee chair. Rajiv.
Good afternoon, all.
Thank you.
Just to say, this year, for the first time, we're hosting 5 scholars. 3 of them have had their finance agreed. The latest one was a lady called Marta Herrera, and they're all very clever people. But what I'd like to do, if I have a few seconds, just to read a few lines from her CV to see all the experiences she's been through. If I can read what she wrote. In 1986, following the kidnapping and deaths of my grandfather and aunt, my parents immigrated to Texas from Guatemala seeking political asylum. While my parents survived a civil war and genocide, the scars from the suffering remained. I witnessed the continuing violence and poverty while visiting family every summer and working with indigenous communities as a Spanish translator on medical mission trips. Despite the hardships, my parents started a local church and prison ministry for Central American inmates and immigrant families in Texas. Following their lead, I worked with youth in the church whose families were transitioning and healing from conflict-ridden areas in fragile countries from 2010 to 2017. So not only have they experience in their studies, but this particular lady has been through so much, and we really look forward to meeting her, and I hope we hear more from her soon. Now, as regards the other 2, we're still waiting for them to get the Rotarian funds. We should have answers to that in the next few weeks. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, Rajiv. I'd now like to call on Isabella Jones, to give us an update on C&V, Community and Vocational.
Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is well. I just wish to inform that our first meeting as incoming chair would be this afternoon. We have proposed a host of, or should I say a list of virtual events that we will discuss and put on the calendar for future. We wish to have all of your support as we undertake this. We will continue to watch the government regulations in terms of when we can meet face-to-face, because we have a host of events we need you to support. So as it stands, our first meeting is this afternoon. For all members in attendance, please, our meeting will be immediately following the lunch meeting. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you. And a full report will be submitted to the council shortly after our meeting this afternoon. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Isabella. I'd now like to call on our second Vice President, Sabrina, for an update on Rotaract.
Hello, President David. I just wanted to let you know that Rotaract is very happy, and they want to say thank you once again for the amount that Rotary raised and gave them to donate to crisis. Rotaract has done their Purple for Polio event that was 2 weeks ago, and it was a success. And also they changed last week the bylaws. They voted the change of bylaws and respected the advices that they received from President David Johnson, and they made the changes. And we have a new president, Prakash Pandya. Ada took over Sean Minton.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'd now like to ask our almoner, Harry Simmons, if he has anything to report. If not, I have a preliminary report, which is that past President Gordon Warren is still undergoing treatment, and more information from Harry later. I'd now like to give a quick report. I have received a written report from Robert Ghazi for the youth service, and I know Robert's online, but if I may, I'll just abbreviate some comments. The youth service is recommending, and the club will support, the facilitation of setting up an Interact Club. Now, the Interact Club is an important part of Rotary, part of the family, offering young students 12 to 18 the opportunity to broaden their horizons and make new friends. It's also beneficial for the future of our Rotary Club as potential members of the future. Also, their teachers and parents find out about Rotary as well. And I expect we'll be working from September to establish an Interact Club attached to ourselves. I'd also like to report from our compliance officer, Olivia Au, who has stated that Zoom is compliant with GDPR, at least they say so, and its private policy states that if you participate in recorded meetings or you subscribe in Zoom cloud recording services, we record information from you in connection with and through such recordings. This information may include personal data. They have end-to-end encryption of calls, which they do not provide to third parties. They are responsible for keeping the information, and Olivia thinks that Zoom is adequately GDPR compliant. The only precaution for Rotary is to make sure that our security and privacy measures are adequate where it's concerned, such as with ID purposes, to attend Zoom meetings, to limit potential intrusion or use or privacy respecting web browser. In that regard, to limit the cookie tracking that takes place. So you should, if you can, remove cookies after a Zoom meeting. Make sure that you clear the cookies and temporary files to limit the tracking service that can be done through the browser. What we need, she says, is common sense in the use of Zoom. What Rotary can do to protect whatever the views expressed by the members and non-members in Zoom meetings are, is perhaps the thing that we should look after ourselves. So be careful what views you express if you're being recorded. Thank you. I'd now like to ask if there have been any visits to other clubs. Is everybody muted, Clive, is it?
Yes, I'd also muted myself. Robert was wanting to say something. I think Robert Carsey.
Well, we went as usual to Redbridge Club, and it was a good gathering and changeover of the presidency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert. No other messages.
Yes, just another message, President David, if I may. Brian Slews, who last Friday returned to his home country of Canada, sent me a message this morning asking, he said he's missing us already, and could I convey his greetings to all the members of the club, and I'm happy so to do.
Thank you. I think we've now got to the part of the meeting where I would ask people to remain seated, to grab a glass so that they can give the royal toast. And if you'll bear with me a moment, I will replace myself with the club's picture. With the club's picture of the Queen. May we toast the Queen?
Queen.
Give me your glass.
It is traditional at the first meeting of every Rotary year for the President to set out his plans for the next 12 months. The main elements of my plan were covered a fortnight ago, and I'm not intending to repeat that statement now. I'd like to focus on just one part of my aspirations, and that is the part that said I wish to promote and protect the history of the club as an asset to be utilised for the benefit of members. Over the next few meetings, we will be issuing parts of the centennial history of the club, which is really a very good history, as histories go, of institutions like this. And I hope that we can actually look at it. It refreshes the names that we are getting mentioned to us, like Gordon Warren, and the role they played in the club.
It's President Gerard, Gerard Schriffen, Schriffen, and he's the president of the Rotary Club of New York.
Well, we welcome him to our meeting in that case.
Thank you for joining us.
There we go.
Brilliant.
We're very impressed with everything apart from your technology.
What I've done.
It's Ian Balcombe here, the Vice President.
I've actually been at the meeting started.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I thought it might be you because you look very legal, so.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, just about.
Well, I saw David earlier when he started the meeting.
Unfortunately, we can't hear you, Vice President, President Gerard, but what you might be interested in, I don't know if you saw the chair that David was sitting in. That was presented by the Rotary Club of New York to the Rotary Club of London, and the reason for that was that we had a competition between us to see, I mean, some years ago now.
Hello.
See who could get the most new members, and the Rotary Club of London won the competition, and the Rotary Club of New York then presented the Rotary Club of London as a prize, that magnificent chair, which I think you saw President David sitting in when he vacated it for a short while to introduce the picture of the Queen.
Approximately 130, 140, somewhere in that area. We also have a bell, which we won in a competition with the Rotary Club of London from 1922. Yes. And when David used his bell, it reminded me of what we call the attention bell, and it's mounted on a plank from Admiral Nelson's flagship Victory. And we won that in a contest with your club in 1922.
Yes.
That's amazing. What was the contest for?
Attendance.
Oh, should we win the first attendance one and you won the second one then, or?
Well, you taught us how to do it the right way.
Oh,
yes.
see.
And then also in 1919, there was a visitor from our club to your club who started the practice of bringing a banner from one club to another. And this was the first time it had been done. And then later, the Rotary Club of New York introduced a resolution into the Rotary International to establish this worldwide. And it's still being done to this day, as we know.
Which is wonderful. Thank you so much.
I think we've got about 8,000 or 10,000 flags in store at the moment. So we've had quite a few visitors.
What year was that, please?
That was 1919, yes. This year, I'm changing things dramatically this year to try to bring in a lot of younger people, because I'm sure we have the same problem you have in London. It's very difficult for anyone who's working full-time to make our luncheon meetings.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm going to inaugurate a whole series of evening meetings, which will be open to the public. and we're going to be dealing with a number of topics which are they're very topical here in New York. The first one is going to deal with the issue of the New York City Police Department and the various communities in the city. So we're going to invite, literally, we'll have these, and these will be public hearings, public meetings, to try to have Rotary act as, I guess the best way to put it would be to mediate the issues between the police department and the various communities in the city. And I'm looking forward to this. I've done this in the past, not with Rotary, but as a professional mediator, and have always had great success with it. So I'm hoping this time, since it's it's a very raw issue here in the United States right now, as I'm sure you've seen on the news. Yeah. So we're hoping that we can, that Rotary will be able to make an impact on that here in the city. We're also
badly affected
yes.
problem states?
Yes, New York is New York is a microcosm of world issues. So it's an issue here in New York City. It's a big issue in New York City, yes. And I've also started a course of study. I can't discuss the particulars of it right now because it's not finalized, but it's the idea, it would be a course of study in international affairs with a number of ambassadors, UN ambassadors at their consulates, with military cadets in the United States. So it looks very promising. I've got a number of countries, a number of ambassadors who have already signed on to this, and it's something we're looking forward to.
Yes.
Have you lost me? I'm not sure.
No, we're listening intently. Thank you.
Can I just add to what the President's saying? In Britain and Ireland, we have a link for Rotaract between Rotary and the police cadets who at the age of 18 leave and have nowhere to go. So that might be something you could think about with your military cadets, about bringing them into Rotaract.
Yes, yes. Well, actually, this will be a course of study, and they'll have to produce a paper, a research paper at the end of the class, and they'll get credit for it from the academy where they're studying.
We'd also had tried evening meetings. We're going to try one in the City of London.
We're involved in an issue right now. I don't know if you're familiar with the Spanish chef Jose Andres, but he. Okay. And where will you have your meetings?
Well, hopefully in the city itself, because we've got quite a few. Both myself and David and the past presidents, and other members of the Rotary Club are liverymen in the City of London. I know quite a few of the people in the City of London Corporation. So we're hoping to have a meeting in the City of London itself, start inaugurating those as well in the evening. As you say, more public meeting, as it were.
Yeah. Yes. I think in the United States, the majority of people are very familiar with the name of Rotary, but they haven't the foggiest what we do and what we're about. And that's my mission as part of my year will be to make the public more aware of what Rotary is, what we do, and to become far more involved in the business of New York City.
It's interesting to hear we've got the same sort of issues in London as you've got in New York. So, I mean, in sense of Rotary and membership and that sort of thing. So it's very interesting, thank you. And I think there was a meeting some years ago, it must be going back 10, 15 years, when all the major clubs, all the major city clubs around the world met up to discuss major city issues.
David, are you back?
David is back.
Welcome, Gerard. I'm very pleased to see you. We may have a problem with time now. I don't know quite where we've got to, but I really appreciate your visiting us. I was about to start talking about a chair, and if the members will permit, I will carry on talking about the chair in the hope that I can actually get my own machine back up and running shortly and show you some pictures. But the chair on which I like to reflect is the one on which my bottom is presently placed. It's big, comfortable, for those mature of body anyway. Indeed, a good chair for presiding from, which our peasants have done for perhaps 50 years, but not recently. It's a chair out of its time. It is practical, long-serving, and impressive. It's after a style originated by Thomas Chippendale in the mid-18th century, continued through the 19th, and perpetuated into the 20th century. And probably the example I'm sitting on is made by Tiffany's of New York in the early 1920s. It's about 100 years old. It's made of mahogany. I took it for safekeeping when we had to clear the basement of our office in York Gate. It's a chair out of space. It's an unstackable chair. It's Chippendale in style, which I've already covered. The chair bears two crests. It contains two seals, which I hope I can show you shortly. One originating in 1539 to be used by the Corporation of the City of London with a motto, it is in Latin, but which so many of these mottos appear to be, but I'll translate it as, "Gracious Lord, defend the citizens of London." It displays a sword, a shield, and armour, to leave no doubt that arms would in fact be used by the citizens to defend themselves. 500 years later, the City of London is still using the same elements of that seal, and it's defending itself these days more by trade. It's the longest continuously self-governed corporation, I think, in the world. The second seal is that of the City of New York, with a motto in the classic Latin language stating, "The seal of the City of New York," named after a certain Duke of York, which I will not explore further. This seal on this chair was originally adopted in 1915 for use on official documents, but was based on an earlier seal from 1654. There on the seal are depicted various elements. The eagle astride a globe and surrounded by laurel leaves. But the heart of the seal is trade. A sailor on the one hand and a native of Manhattan on the other, depicting beaver skins in one part and grain on the other. And in the center is a windmill, which may be a reference to the Dutch founders or to the energy mechanically generated to turn grain into a usable substance. The date on the shield, on the chair on which I sit, is 1664, which was a date attached to the English definition of the city. In 1977, this date was changed on the seal of the City of New York to 1625, which was when the Dutch established New Amsterdam. Politics at play. New York governors have also done well in protecting their citizens for nearly 400 years. From these seals, we learn that change is continuous. Neither seal reflects the city of today, but the importance of the longevity of the institution, giving citizens security, trumps change. And the emblems used are not changed with time, but used to establish the security people have gained from their continuing existence. Attached to the back of the chair, which I will also hope to show you later, is a plaque. And I will just vacate the chair, see if it is on the screen, and read the plaque at the back, which says, "To the Rotary Club, London, England. Victors at the attendance contest, November and December 1922 and January 1923, from the Rotary Club of New York, USA." Now, this was a return. This was a return gift because the London challenged, or New York and London agreed to a challenge in 1921, which is 100 years ago, which New York won, and we presented New York with a ship's bell for opening and closing their meetings. And at the time that this competition was taking place, both clubs were in a growing market. Both were increasing very, very rapidly. Formed in 1911, by the end of the war, the London Club had got about 300 members. It's never had as many since. And the chairs and the exchange of gifts was symbolic of the state of friendship and the way in which relationships were developed and established when the organization was newly formed. Rotarians in 1921 had a core value that they were successful business people. They had ethical and high standards, and they did everything well, even the exchanging of gifts. We still hold to those values. I still sit on this chair. But what is the value of a non-stackable chair in which we don't have a hall to place it, to the club? Is this, sorry.
You've got your pictures as well.
I've got access to my pictures again now. So I just want to show you from the share screen. I start by showing you the seal of London. This seal is now, they've changed the words. It's now, "May God guide us," are the words around the seal of the City of London. This is the seal of New York that I was trying to describe, with the sailor on the left and my left, and I think they use the phrase Indian, or native of New York, of Manhattan, on the right. In terms of protecting our history and promoting it, the question I like to ask members of the club is, what would they like done with an artifact like this? Do they want it sold or disposed of? It would be a small sum, but which could go to charity, or retained in the possibility that we may move to a location where we can actually use it for our regular meetings, or perhaps to a museum. What is the value of the historical artifact, and how should we retain and promote them? And can we not use them now to foster new relationships with old friends? That is the question I'm asking. Thank you. I'm very sorry about the loss of communication.
If anybody wishes to ask a question, can you please use the reaction button, and then it will flag up against your name, and I will be able to unmute you. Thank you.
Yes, I am. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add that the bell, which the Rotary Club of London gave to New York in 1922, was lost in a fire at a hotel, the Roosevelt Hotel, that we were using for a meeting in 1978. The bell was replaced with another bell from a British submarine chaser, the HMS P-20. And that was presented to the Rotary Club of New York by your president, Ken Standish, in June of 1992. And we use that bell every meeting we have. So for what it's worth, we have no intentions of ever not using it, and very proud to have it. And I think it's still mounted on the oak timber from the Admiral Nelson's flagship Victory.
Thank you very much for that that information. I'm sure there will be members of the club who have some knowledge of that, but it's not recorded at the moment in our history, and it clearly should be.
David,
I'd like to thank the president of the Rotary Club in New York, Judge Gerard Shropshire, for attending our meeting and, in my absence, telling us about the Rotary Club in New York. Because this is being recorded, I will look and see what was said. But I'd like to thank you sincerely for getting up early this morning and joining us. And I'd also like to thank His Excellency the High Commissioner for the Bahamas for joining our meeting. And I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like now to pass to Ken Giles to tell us a little bit about next week's meeting.
Yeah. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. It's a quick introduction to next week's speaker. He's Robin Bidgood, who's the CEO of the Army and Navy Club, and that's a private members London club, which people may not necessarily know too much about London clubs. It's not, I hasten to add, one of those ones that we know Soho years ago. But it's affectionately known as the RAG for historical reasons. And Robin will be able to tell us all more about the history of the club, its present and its future when he speaks next week. If you walk along, walk along St James Street off Piccadilly and then along King Street, you'll come to St James Square, and that's where you'll see the club. If you turn right when you get to St James Square and walk down towards Pall Mall, you'll see a building just on the corner of St James Square and Pall Mall with a blue flag flying over the entrance. That's the club. And you'll see also there's usually a brilliant display of flowers outside. It's very much part of that quarter where there are endless London clubs. You'll find there's the East India Club, which many of you will know. There's the along in Pall Mall, there are places like the RAC Club and so on and so forth. On a personal note, Olive, my wife, and I are members, and we were actually married there in 2018. As some fellow Rotarians who were guests will know. As we live near Oxford, it's very much our home away from home because we need a place for our London forays. So all I can say is, look, I hope you'll join us next week and look forward to hearing what Robin's got to say about the club, long history, its present, and also its future. It's obviously going to be something that Robin's going to talk about in terms of, for instance, of coronavirus, but it's a club which we've known and loved, and I thought that it was a good idea if people who didn't know much about London clubs could actually hear about the Army and Navy, which is a typical London club.
Thank you, Ken.
That's the business.
Thank you, Ken. Finally, I will be sending to New York a London, one of these. Now, we're all getting familiar with them, and we're all going to have to be wearing them before we actually get back into numbers of meeting together. So here's to a common future. My final toast is seated cups to Rotary and peace the world over.
Rotary and peace the
world over. Rotary and peace the world over.
Thank you.